Okay, so it's been 24 hours since I painted it the haint gray color, blue gray. And now I'm going to do the next step, which is to take my rotary sander, and this is a fresh 150 grit circle, and I'm going to try to remove as much of the paint as possible, leaving a little bit behind. And also try to smooth a little bit of the grain on the wood, especially at the back of the neck. Okay, so I've run over it with the sander. It's one of those moments where, while doing it, I was thinking, well, maybe I should have left well enough alone and just stopped it with the cool stain effect. But I'm going to go over it a couple times with a couple of different washes. I'm going to do a brown wash, which hopefully will kind of restain some of the vinegar stain that got knocked back. And then I'm going to do a black wash and just get into all the crevices, the fret marks over the fret dots. Let me see if you can see along the sides. You know, like I said, it's a barnwood whitewashed effect. Here's the back. I left it a little heavy on the back because the back had felt or velveteen stuff on, and when I sanded that away, there was still a backing paper. So much of the excess paint as I could. I then did several washes with both black and brown paint, working all over it. I did, like, I lost count, probably 7 or 8 washes, and then wiping areas off and everything. So you should see there's a lot of cool dark details. I'm not totally happy. I think at least on the front I lost way more of the gray paint that I wanted. So I'm going to do a dry brush. If you're not familiar with it, it's another weathering modeling technique where you take a brush, and it's literally the opposite of a wash. You take a brush and like a wad of paper towel, and you put the barest amount of paint on your brush, and then dab as much of it, even more off as possible, onto the paper towel. And you take that brush and you just lightly go over everything. And what's going to happen is it's only going to hit the highest parts. So I'm going to do a dry brush with more of that haint blue-gray. And then I'm going to knock it back with probably one more wash, because I don't want it to look like this has got a nice worn color to it. So I don't want bright on top of it. So I'm just going to do a light dry brush to get a few more spots and some of the grain up here maybe. And then knock it back with a wash. And then I am going to put as many coats of matte varnish, matte spray, Varathane type stuff on as I can. I only have one can, but I'd like to ultimately have it feel somewhat smooth. But I figure after the fact, once I do this, if I want it smooth on the back of the neck, I'll probably build up several layers of Johnson's paste wax. The only trouble with Johnson's is if I buff it, it'll look shiny, and I kind of want to avoid it, but I just figured I could do something to smooth out the back. So that's it. I'm gonna start the dry brushing. I thought I'd do a little bit in case people aren't familiar. So what I've got here is the paint, but I'm just taking it off the paint can lid because I'm not going to use very much of it. I have just a paper towel on my knee area that I'm just going to tap off. And I have a cheap Chinese chip brush, you know, these really 50-cent brushes from any hardware store. But if you notice, what I did is I cut it down to about 1 inch of the hair. Like I said, I don't want a lot of motion. I'm just going to lightly brush across the surface. And I'm not sure if I'm going to go against the grain or with the grain or both. The direction you go determines how much you pick up. And there's grain here that I do really want to get. So I may do a light pass across and then decide. So I'm not going to videotape the whole thing, but basically you go and you go pop. Just got the barest amount of paint on here. Actually, it's more than I want. And I'm tapping it off on my knee, trying to get it really literally almost dry. And then I'm just going to go across now. Yeah, I'm going to go this way, I think, because it is giving just a little bit. It's always awkward the first couple of strokes you dry brush. I guess I can do both. And I also want I don't know how much memory I have. What I'm doing now is I am weathering the hardware, and I wasn't able to videotape or photograph it due to memory issues, but I took all the metal and I made I gave it an undercoating of rust, and what I did was I mixed up some rust-colored paint, which was orange and ultramarine blue, and I also mixed up various shades of browns and little bits of red, and using some sponge bits I just dolloped over everything. And then while the paint was wet, I took a trick that I just learned from car modelers, and I sprinkled cinnamon, yes, little brown fuzzy powder of the spice, and to it, and let it dry, and that kind of gives that granularity of rust, and it's rust colored. And after everything had dried, I hit it all that with some matte clear liquid varnish or lacquer, and let it go overnight. And just now I took a brush with water and I brushed over each piece, and I sprinkled salt. And what I did is I mixed up sea salt, kosher, and iodized, so I would get different little crystals of various sizes. And what I basically did is wet an area and just sprinkled a little bit on, and I kind of looked at certain areas like edges and stuff. So I'm letting that dry, and what I'm going to do next is spray paint it matte black. And once the paint dries, I am going to then brush off the salt, which will reveal the rust underside, and it should give this sort of mottled black and rust look about things. So I am stopping now.